I'm from Canada.
Canada! Welcome everyone, I'm Richard Kress with a list of Canadian sports movies that shoot and score. We are a nation of sports fans and make films about our favorite pastimes that range from the saucy hockey story of Five Hole, tales of hockey erotica, and the genre stick handling of Hockey the Musical, to the martial arts flick Enter the Drag Dragon and the comedy Ski School 2. I'm going to put this podcast on ice, however, and concentrate on hockey movies, starting with a look at Goon, a movie about Canada's favorite sport starring Jay Baruchel and Sean William Scott. If Goon could be summed up in one image, it would be of a tooth soaring through the air in slow motion. The airborne bloody chiclet is as significant a symbol to Goon as Mona Lisa's smirk was to high Renaissance painting and the open G tuning is to Keith Richards' guitar. The tooth and the punch that dislodged it are celebrated by the film as an essential part of the game. Like its main character, the movie is violent, sweet, and a little dim-witted. Unlike other sports films, Goon doesn't use the game as a metaphor for or a microcosm of real life. The flying tooth is just that, a tooth dislodged by a mighty punch to the mouth, but beyond the broken teeth and smelly jockstraps, the film does have philosophical messages. Loyalty matters, doing the right thing is crucial, and understanding your purpose and place makes for a happy life. In some ways, the messages are very zen, except for the bloody mouths, scabby fingers, and the aforementioned flying tooth.
My brother, he wants to offer you a contract.
You're not here to play hockey. You're here to fight.
This is one step under the big league.
No glory holes here tonight!
Hey, I'm Doug Ladd. 2 rules, man.
Stay away from my fucking Percocets. And do you have any fucking Percocets?
All right.
We help and protect these guys.
Go fuck your mom!
I'm here to do whatever they need me to do. If they need me to bleed, then I'll bleed for my team.
They call you Thug for Christ's sake. My fucking eyeball just ejaculated.
Doug, I dig hockey players. The violence, the beer, all of it.
Boy popped a cherry tonight.
What does that mean?
It's time to welcome Doug officially.
We should sign his dick. Everyone sign his dick.
What's happening here?
I'll sign your dick, Doug.
Boss, the boss, Ray. He is the master.
You have my respect. If ever there comes a time when it gets down to you and me, I will lay you the fuck out, kid.
This has all the elements of a sports masterpiece.
Ready?
Yes, thank you for asking.
This is about to get ugly.
Goon does capture the rough and rowdy feel of minor league hockey. It's profane enough to make the Hanson brothers blush and violent enough to convince Paul Henderson to buy a helmet. When the movie opened, I reminded Goon star Jay Baruchel that he had told me a year before he made the movie that this film would have the best hockey ever put on film. This is what he said.
Without a doubt, unquestionably. And I go so far as to say that we have the best hockey in any hockey movie. And it's the best hockey committed to film in any movie. And it has teeth. And it hits you in the head like a 2x4. It's loud. It's very, very coarse. It's violent as fuck. But I think that the most important thing, none of what I just mentioned would work or be relevant in any way if you didn't give a shit about what was happening. And I think that the most important thing about this movie is how much, I hate using this word because it's overused, but how much heart it has.
Well, sports movies are all about heart, right? Because I don't think that anyone really expects the final game in a sports movie. Yeah. I mean, you're going to lose by a point, you're going to win by a point. That's and it's exciting, gets your blood pumping a little bit. But I don't think anyone really cares about that as much as they do about the characters. It's not the game at that point. It's who's playing the game.
No, and that's kind of and that's exactly right. And sort of this thing is meant to be. Look, hockey is as infinite as literature, as music, as food. So there's no way to make a movie about all of it. Yeah. So what we're doing is focusing on one facet of it, and that speaks to what you were just saying. It's about the dude, and we decided, it all came from a very pure place that we believed that it's supposed to be sort of an anthem to the most maligned, least understood position in professional sports, that of the hockey enforcer. Yeah. No single position in any game is more polarizing, is more rife with debate, all these things, and that's who I was raised to love. I grew up in a house where all my dad's favorite players were the Chris Nylans and the John Cordicks, the tough guys, and so I grew up not just an appreciation but an inherent respect for what they did. And so I decided, I figured these boys deserve their moment in the sun. Because all you ever see in reference to them on television is a bunch of talking heads who deciding their fates for them, passing judgment on what they do. And I thought they deserve a movie. And that's why it's as violent as it is, because it is not a clean job they do. And just like a soldier who leaves and runs the risk of not coming home, this guy runs the risk of having some very terrible injuries inflicted upon him every time he skates. These are boys that skate, if they're lucky, 4 minutes the entire game. And so that's why Sean, in our movie, he undergoes some very, very, very terrible physical repercussions for this job. And so we're not passing any kind of moral judgment on it, aside from we could take a lesson from these boys about their sort of humble blue-collar work ethic of regardless of what the score is, regardless of how much your teammates like you or respect you, whatever your coach thinks of you, none of that is relevant. All is relevant is giving 100% whenever you're asked. And there's something inherently beautiful in that to me.
Holy Mackinaw! From the fictional world of Goon, let's have a look at two films about a hockey legend. I think most Canadians are familiar with the story of Rocket Richard. It's part of our DNA. And if you don't believe me, here's a personal story to illustrate how pervasive his legend is. I come from a long line of non-hockey fans, and despite my parents' disinterest in the game, they named their little bundle of joy, that's me, after Rocket Richard. His life is the stuff of legends. During 18 seasons of professional play, he set records, becoming the first person to score 50 goals in 50 games, and once skated down the ice and placed the puck in the net despite having a 200-pound member of the opposing team on his back. He was a fiery competitor on ice and off. For his agile playing style, a famous folk song described him as, quote, wind on skates. For his commitment to establishing French language rights on the hockey bench and in his home province, the song called him all of Quebec on its feet. With such a legacy, it would have been easy to make a film that put the Rocket on a pedestal a la Lou Gehrig in The Pride of the Yankees, but the Rocket filmmakers resisted that temptation and instead present Rocket Richard warts and all. His quick temper gets him into trouble more than once, and his teammates razz him about his lack of education and verbal skills. On the plus side, the movie paints him as the people's champion, someone who stood up to discrimination by English team owners and officials and helped start Quebec's quiet revolution.
You're the Babe Ruth of hockey.
This is the extraordinary true story.
Change 15 for the number 9.
Of the man they called the Rocket.
You are the most exciting player I have ever seen.
44 goals in one season. What's a record like that mean to you?
It is good.
He led a team to greatness. Inspired a generation.
It's not up to you. Things have to change!
Gave passion to his country.
I don't want to see Maurice tonight! I want the Rocket!
And brought a national sport to the world.
They're not gonna leave till you go out.
Quebecois superstar Roy Dupuis plays Rocket Richard with a brooding intensity that shows the pent-up rage boiling just under the surface of the Rocket's character. He closely resembles the sports superstar, although he had to wear contacts to duplicate Rocket's famous green eyes, and he has the skills to make the hockey scenes exciting and believable. Occasionally, the Rocket looks and feels like a 2-hour-long Heritage Minute, but it's also a rare animal. It's a sports movie that doesn't rely on the usual cliches of the inspirational coach or the band of misfit players that band together to win the big game. Happily, it aspires to capture not only the hockey history intrinsic to the piece, but also the cultural history that shaped the man and the hockey legend. The Rocket isn't the only film about Rocket Richard, however. He's at the heart of a classic Canadian short film. The story of The Sweater is so famous, a line from the story appeared on the Canadian $5 bills as part of the Canadian Journey banknote series printed between 2001 and 2013.
We all wore the same costume as Maurice Richard did, the red, white, and blue costume of the Montreal Canadiens, the best hockey team in the world.
We all combed our hair like Maurice Richard, and we used a kind of hair glue to keep it in place. We laced our skates like Maurice Richard. We taped our sticks like Maurice Richard. We cut his picture out of all the newspaper, and we knew everything there was to know about Maurice Richard.
In this animated short, author Roch Carrier narrates the true story of a youngster who, along with all his friends, worships Rocket Richard and wore his number 9 Canadiens hockey jersey. When his sweater begins to fray around the edges, his mother orders him a new one through the Eaton's catalog. But through a mix-up, the most mortifying thing ever happens. They send him a Toronto Maple Leafs jersey. Wonderfully animated, it's a beautiful tribute to Rocket Richard, to youthfulness, to hockey, and to Quebec. Let's switch gears. Based on author and journalist Richard Wagamise's book of the same name, Indian Horse is a personal journey that brings issues of cultural assimilation and displacement policies to the fore. Structured like a film noir, the film begins at the end with Saul Indian Horse in rehab, recounting the details of his life, which include being orphaned and left in the care of his grandmother before being scooped up and sent to the St. James Residential School. A school in only the loosest sense of the word, piousness was valued above everything else. He survives in part because of his love of hockey. Teaching himself to skate, he uses frozen horse manure as make-do pucks, and despite his young age, he has an innate ability honed by watching hockey on TV and can outplay the older boys. With the encouragement of a kindly priest, he flourishes and is soon recruited to an outside league where his ability attracts the attention of a Toronto Maple Leafs recruiter. In the big city, he is subjected to abject racism and feels even more removed from his cultural roots.
They said I should tell my story.
Mama!
The Lord God is your father now.
The rink became my escape. The game, my survival.
Father, he's the best player on the rink.
This is your way out. Your way to a better life.
Indian Horse's portrayal of the cruelties of the residential school system is uncompromising and horrific. It's not overly graphic, but the human effect of the humiliating and dangerous treatment the students were subjected to are undeniable and unforgettable. Director Stephen Campanelli, that's Clint Eastwood's Steadicam operator from the bridges of Madison County up to his most recent films, sets the stage for Saul's later-in-life trauma with matter-of-fact storytelling and characters that embody the results of cultural alienation. Overall, the film could use a little more nuance, but there is no denying the important and timely nature of the story. I spoke with Indian Horse star Ajua Kopashita about playing Saul Indian Horse.
Saul's a very interesting person. You know, he's somebody who's dealt with a lot of things in his life, a lot of trauma, a lot of different experiences that are hard for him. And he is a person that tries to find a way to cope with it. And for him, his coping mechanism becomes hockey. And that's it's a difficult thing for him to face his trauma, so he hides from it for as long as he can. But he's one of these like indomitable spirits to have this power to really kind of face their demons if he has the wherewithal and the courage to do it. And it takes him a while, but he finally comes to terms with that.
Some members of the cast actually had gone to residential schools. They were survivors of that system. How did they react when they saw the recreation of it on set?
It was actually really powerful. We were in Peterborough shooting a couple of sequences in a residential school. Well, it wasn't an actual residential school. It was, I think, an abbey, or I'm not sure what the actual term is. But they had transformed it into a residential school for the shooting. And it was really incredible. When they walked in, they said that it reminded them exactly of how they remembered it. There were things about it that they hadn't seen in decades. And so that was really powerful to know that it was something authentic. And then just to walk through it on my own time when I wasn't shooting, I wasn't around other people, to kind of look through that space and be like, wow, this is where a lot of kids were living for a long time. This is where a lot of them had to spend their childhood. And it was powerful in a very big way.
Look for Indian Horse and other films on this podcast on your local streaming services, but don't forget to support new Canadian films when they play in theaters. For reviews of new and old Canadian movies, check out my website, richardkrause.ca. Winnipeg-born Terry Sawchuk is one of the legends of the NHL, an Original Six era player and leader in wins by goaltenders. The film Goalie, starring Mark O'Brien, gives a blow-by-blow account of his rise to fame. Literally. It begins with an autopsy dealing with each and every war wound and how Terry Sawchuk earned them. It's a striking way to kick off a story of a man who was scarred physically and mentally from his many years in the net. We first meet him as a shy child with a beloved brother and abusive father. His brother's death at 17 carved a hole in his heart that was never filled, despite being married to Pat and fathering 7 children. Booze, hockey, and the reflected glow of being in the NHL kept him going, but the lifestyle, he earned 400 stitches on his face alone, took a toll, and depression and erratic behavior became his norm.
The winners want the clock to run out. Fear what's on the way? What could there be about fear that I don't already know? This is my only home. I'm a goalie.
If there's one thing I know in this world to be true, you are worth the investment.
Stitch him up!
In Detroit, we expect you to bring more than just hope.
And the job of the goalie is to stop the puck.
Terry, quit it. You're gonna burn a hole right through her.
You got the greatest goaltender in the league at one end, the kid, Sawchuk.
You know, let me try to get away with a cigarette in my hand. Okay. And when you do, you're the hero. When you don't, you come to the bar alone.
Looks like it gets pretty rough.
Sawchuk saw his share of triumph and trouble, but Goalie is not a hagiography of one of the legends of the game. Instead, it's more of an elegy for a man who spent much of his career earning $25 a game and occasionally playing with broken bones for fear of being traded. O'Brien does a nice job of portraying Sawchuk's duality, from a young man full of hope and promise to the battle-scarred veteran of the ice who let the pressure of performance weigh him down. O'Brien subtly portrays his descent. Director Adriana Maggs manages to insert some real poetry into the film. Interspersed into the action are snippets of Night Work, the Sawchuk poems by the director's father, Randall Maggs. His words add to the melancholic feel of the film and are a nice antidote when the film falls into the occasional ice is thicker than blood cliche. Like all good sports movies, Goalie isn't about the scores or stats. It's about what drives the players to push themselves to be warriors or to be worthless. As much as Canadians like watching movies about hockey, nothing beats the real thing. I asked Ken Dryden, a person who needs no introduction to hockey fans, but here's one anyway. He's a former professional goaltender who helped the Habs win 5 Stanley Cups in 1973, 1976, 1977, 1978, and 1979. He's also a politician, a lawyer, a business person, and author. I interviewed him about a memoir he wrote called The Class, a memoir of a time, a place, and us, a look back at the Class 9G at Etobicoke Collegiate Institute. But I couldn't help but ask him about playing for Team Canada in the 1972 Summit Series against the Soviet national hockey team. It's very interesting that when you went into this class in 1960, there were 13 million people in the country. On September 28th, 1972, 16 million of Canada's then population of 22 million people watched the Summit Series. I mean, that's a mind-blowing number. When you're involved in that, I mean, I guess you wouldn't have known that number, but you had to know that the country was watching, that everyone's eyes are on you. Can you allow that to play on your mind? Does it make you play better, or is it onerous? Is it a weight?
It's both of those things times 100. We knew what those circumstances were. I mean, we had played hockey all of our lives. We had been hockey fans all of our lives. We knew what this series meant. We knew how it mattered. We knew how it mattered to Canadians. We knew essentially that the country was stopping to watch these games in Moscow. And the thing that, I mean, it's interesting that you bring it up about the 16 million out of 22 million. I mean, as I was trying to explain a year ago, on the 50th anniversary, like, how does one who didn't live through that, how do you come to understand a significance of it? And that was the best way I found to explain it. Mm-hmm. And it's just to say, not only was the population 22 million at the time, but every minute of that 8th game was played during work hours and school hours right across the country. From that it started. I used to know. I think it was 1:30 in St. John's, Newfoundland. It was 1:00 in Halifax. It was noon in Toronto and Montreal and Ottawa. It was 11 in the morning in Winnipeg. It was 10 in the morning in Calgary and Edmonton. It was 9 in the morning in Vancouver, Victoria, and Whitehorse. And it was on a Thursday. And in spite of all of that, 16 out of 22 million. And in those 22 million, there are people that are, 0 years old, 1 year old, 2 years old, and 100 years old, and 105 years old, and who are sick in hospital and all the rest of it. And still 16 million people watched. So we knew the significance of it. And we knew that we had to find a way of rising to that moment.
Well, that's it for this episode of Maple Syrup for Your Eyes. Thanks for listening, and be sure to subscribe. I'm Richard Krause. Thanks for listening. I'll be back with more suggestions in a week or so. In the meantime, be sure to celebrate and support Canadian films.